What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Universal Mastery. Welcome back to my public YouTube channel. What exactly am I going to be speaking about in today's video? This is definitely going to be a very interesting subject that is at hand. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of value out of this, and I can almost guarantee you're not going to hear this information anywhere else in the way that I'm about to present this to you, okay? I'm going to be speaking about what the Garden of Eden actually is and how to get to the Garden of Eden. So this is me as a professional occultist really breaking down the awareness of truly what is the Garden of Eden that we've all read about, we've all heard about when it comes to the religious text from the Bible, all right? So I'm going to be going into a deep dive with the subject. If this is something that interests you and you want to know the real principles that go behind this and the real concepts, this is definitely your video. You have one thing to do, and that is simply to stay tuned. All right, let me first start with introducing myself just in case you don't know who I am. My name is Jeremiah Schwartz. I am a professional occultist. I'm fully initiated in the entirety of the Kabbalistic tree. I'm studied when it comes to the 22 major arcana of the tarot deck. I'm studied when it comes to planetary energies in association with astrology. And I'm also very aware of trauma. So with that being said, let's move right on into our subject at hand. So we're talking about the Garden of Eden. I'm sure you as a listener are probably wondering, is this actually a real thing? I've heard about it from religious texts. Maybe you were a Christian at one point in your life and you read about it. Maybe you believed it in regards to the story. Maybe you're someone who's not religious and you've just heard the concept before because it's such a popular concept. Maybe you saw a movie that was titled The Garden of Eden. Maybe you read a book that mentioned the Garden of Eden. Who knows? All right. But what I do know is that most of you probably do have an awareness of the Garden of Eden. For those of you that don't, you need to get out from under your rock. Just kidding. The Garden of Eden is mentioned in Judaic text from Christianity, the Holy Bible, and it is basically the state of paradise where God put the first man and woman into and basically gave them complete free roam throughout this garden of paradise where everything was literally perfect, and Adam and Eve generally felt in a state of bliss. Now, in this Garden of Eden, there was one specific thing that God said Adam and Eve could not do. And that one thing was eat from a specific tree in that garden, which was called the tree of knowledge. God said you can go throughout this entire Garden of Eden, but the one thing I ask of you is to not eat of the tree of knowledge. Enjoy yourself. So that's what the Garden of Eden truly is. It was a paradise. It's where things were harmonious. It's where things were seemingly integrated. It's where you could basically exist as your true self. Things felt good. They felt like things were in flow. I mean, imagine that. It's like paradise, beautiful. But then again, there was one thing that God said to not do, which was eat of the tree of knowledge. So how does this translate into the Kabbala and into Kabbalistic knowledge of the tree of life and the tree of death, or in the Kabbalistic terms, the Sephiroth or the Qliphoth? All right. How does this translate? So the Garden of Eden is a state that we all have access to. This is the first thing that I want to say with this concept. The tree of life itself, the Sephiroth and the Qliphoth, the tree of life and the tree of death are all one universal tree. This universal tree can be seen as the roots, which is the Qliphoth, and then the top, with the fruits and the branches as the Sephiroth, the difference between the tree of life and the tree of death. Once again, it is a universal tree. It's not that the tree of death is separate from the tree of life. You can't take the roots and separate it from the tree, the upper portion, or else the upper portion will die as well. So with this awareness of the universal tree, we'll call it the universal tree of life, this universal tree of life, as it is a profound spiritual concept, and as it literally exists within our universe throughout multitudes of different planets and used by many different beings and entities and species that exist. So as it is these things, it is also our physical bodies. Just like, if you may have ever heard, it's like your body is the universe. You are in an actual embodiment of the universe itself in a human body. So it kind of comes back down to that principle, as above, so below. We are these physical manifestations of the actual universe, just condensed in these physical forms. So if we're sensitive enough and we're receptive enough, we can start to realize some of these components to our physical bodies, the ways that they operate and the ways that they function, how they correspond to higher dimensional energies or energies that exist out in our universe that are beyond our comprehension for the most part. Okay, but they also correspond to things we understand with nature, with immediate nature. All right, 7 days of the week, the different seasons, 7 different energy centers in the body, primarily. Okay, our moods change like seasons. Literally, our emotions shift with the seasons. So we are in tune with nature in that way. So as we understand that the universal tree of life is a part of the human body, this means that the tree of death and the tree of life exists inside of us. So the first thing that we really want to understand to better know the tree of life is to understand from a practical lens, what does this actually mean within ourselves? So in other words, what does the tree of death, the Qliphoth, represent in my body? And what does the tree of life, the Sephiroth, represent in my body, with my nervous system, with my brain, with my human thoughts and emotions? This is where we want to dive into, and this is information that most people do not understand. All right? So let's go into it. So here's the reality. When it comes to the Qliphoth and the Sephiroth, the reality is that the world we live in today, society itself on planet Earth, it is a manifestation of the Qliphoth. So for those of you that don't know, Qliphoth translates into shells. Shells rhymes with hells. Hell and shell rhyme for a reason. I want you to think of this shell as a certain identity that you have to create for yourself in order to survive a certain situation. But in the act of forming this identity to survive, you're actually sort of separating away from your true self. Because underneath of that, there's a strong fear or anger or sadness that is causing the separation, whereas in a whole-like state, you would be able to process that fear, that anger, and that sadness, and then integrate it and realize I don't need to separate my identity to cope through this. So this is how someone integrates and processes trauma in their life. But see, the thing is that we all go through trauma, most of us at the younger stages of our life. So what it does, because we don't have the right education and we don't have the right guidance at that time, usually the people we're getting most traumatized by are the people that are responsible for guiding us, which usually are our parents. We have to freeze that scary emotion that came from the trauma into our nervous system. Then we lock it away in the unconscious, and then to survive the experience, we have to create this separate persona or this separate identity. This is what the shell is. This is the shell that is a part of the clip-off. This is what hell is. When you separate your consciousness from your true self, but you're doing it to survive because that's all you know how to do. So in other words, it's a form of coping. And it has to happen at that time because we do not know how to process the emotion. But once again, as time goes on, it's this separate identity that we create that we start to attach to. And we start to see this separate identity that we created to survive as being the real version of us. When the truth is, the true self is not that identity. The true self is in a state of being in the present moment, has an ability to surrender, let go, be receptive, and feel the emotions. The alternative self or the artificial self has to always micromanage, has to always be in control, has to label things, has to make sense of everything, has to apply logic to almost everything. And when you start letting go, feeling the emotions, getting to the present moment, the artificial self starts to get afraid because it starts to dissolve, starts to go into stages of disillusion. And I'm just explaining this so you can better understand the psychology that is behind the clip-off and really what this clip-off represents inside of ourself. All right, so in short explanation, it's like a fragmentation of the soul. And we all go through this at a young age. So what I was saying is that our reflected earth is a literal manifestation of hell. Now, some of you may hear me say that and you're like, what? Like, oh my gosh, that's dark. You know, that's scary. Like, why are you saying that? Or why do you believe that? And the reason why I say that is because I understand the nature of how the human species evolves on this planet and goes through trauma, and most oftentimes doesn't have the tools or capacity to process it, so they separate their consciousness into an artificial self, and then from that point, the human projects unconsciously negative energy based on the repressed emotion that came from their trauma. So it's either based in fear, anger, or sadness as some of the key emotions there. All right. And then, as I said, when the repressed emotion is buried in the nervous system, it automatically projects externally from the unconscious. So the person starts projecting that same negative fear, anger, and sadness without them even knowing what they're doing, even if they think that's not what they're doing. And we live in a society, I'm located in North America, the entire United States and beyond, many other countries as well, is locked in this state of projecting unconscious, repressed negative emotions. So what this has done to the mass collective, or what this has done to a large portion of the planet, is actually manifest hell on earth. This has literally manifested the clip-off on earth. So if you want to better know what the clip-off is and what it looks like, turn on your local news station. Listen to the anchors. Okay, listen to the people talking about whatever they think is important. Listen to how they talk about death, how they talk about fear, how they talk about fight or flight, freeze, like you got to act now, or you got to hide at home, you have to run away, you know, you have to whatever. All right, that is the clip-off, and it should be easy to see. So let's go a little bit deeper into the clip-off. I'm going to do that in actually just a second. I'm going to explain a little bit more, though. So as I said, Earth itself is a manifestation of the clip-off. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? It's neither. It is what it is. And ultimately, we do want to know everything happens for a reason. It's not that we need to change this. It's not that we need to save the planet. It's not that this is bad for the planet. This is what had to happen. This is what it means to be a human. We literally incarnate into the clip-off to start a process of re-remembering our true nature. And our true nature actually exists within a state known as paradise or the Garden of Eden. So as I was mentioning, our bodies are these universal trees. And when we come into existence, we are dealing very much so with a lot of clipothic energies because of all the indoctrination we go through, the programming, the trauma, the inability to have people that educate us and help us navigate these challenging circumstances, which then causes us to create these fragmentations and stay identified with these broken fragments of our being, where we some of us never come back to the true self. So as I was saying, with that awareness, knowing that the majority of the planet is literally a manifestation of the Qliphoth itself, we want to understand that there are a large portion of people that have achieved or have obtained a state of living within the Garden of Eden, a state of existing within the true essence of the tree of life. So remember, Qliphoth is the roots, tree of life is the fruits. What typically is more tasty? A ripe fruit or a root vegetable? Now, I'm not here to, debate with you on what foods taste better between a potato or maybe like a ripe banana, but you get what I'm saying here. Typically, the ripe fruit is going to be sweeter, it's going to go down easier, it's going to be nice. And then if you had like a potato, which is a root vegetable, imagine trying to eat a potato without cooking it. It's going to be really tough, it's going to taste like shit. You get the point. So that state of Eden is a state that we can achieve internally because we are the universal tree itself. And matter of fact, it's not just a state that we can achieve, but it's literally why we come here into incarnation in the first place. We literally come here to experience the tree of life and the fruits that are a part of that, to experience this state of paradise, living in the Garden of Eden, by going through the Qliphoth and remembering our true nature that inherently exists within the Garden of Eden, the tree of life. So we're literally returning back to our nature through this evolutionary life experience. And let me just add this little caveat in as well. When we are first incarnate, so when we're in the mother's womb, that is truly when we first incarnate. When we start breathing inside of the mother's womb, in that state, we are our true self. We literally are the essence of our true self in that state. Yes, we're very young. We have an inability to articulate and use the full capacity of our mind. But, the truth is, the true self doesn't exist fully in the mind. It's actually much deeper within the soul and the emotions. So a baby, for example, if you want to think of a baby right now, you can tell they are emotionally in tune because they're able to express their emotions as they're coming to them. Babies know when to cry because they're sad. They know how to be angry when they're angry. They're not afraid to do any of these things. And they're viewing the world around them not from a lens of labeling or making sense. They're viewing things around them from a lens of what are they experiencing from the sensations in the environment. This is like what it means to be in the present moment completely. So a baby literally is the essence of the true self. And yes, when we first incarnate, truthfully, we are coming from the Garden of Eden. We are coming from that state of paradise where we know the true nature of just being. But as we grow and as we get older, this is when the indoctrination really starts to ramp up. This is when the programming really starts to ramp up. This is when the trauma gets very much so intensified to the point where we go from that true baby state where it's just that essence of the inner child where we're in the present moment, we're feeling everything, to now fragmenting our consciousness and almost shunning our ability to be our true self, shunning our ability to feel our emotions, shunning our ability to be in the present moment. So this is like what we literally, I'm going to say it like this is what we all go through. There's not anyone that comes into this planetary existence that does not experience this. And I know this because this is what we come here for. This is, once again, this is not a bad thing. This is what we signed up for. When you decided to be a human on some soul level, this is why. We're doing this intentionally. We're coming here to literally be our true self, get traumatized, forget who our true self is, to then remember what our true self is, and have the ability to have a mind that can make decisions on its own while still being in tune with the soul and the emotions and the intuition. That's what it means to live like a whole evolutionary experience, to have the ability to make decisions out of your own free will, but still balancing that out with what your soul came here to do at the same time. All right. So this little process that I just explained, as I was saying, this happens to everyone. No one escapes this. Now, obviously, as you may notice, not everyone understands these concepts that I'm talking about, and absolutely not everyone goes through this true self-integration process of remembering in this lifetime. At some point, the soul, the human, will have to go through this, but it may take them many lifetimes to do that. Okay? Thankfully, I'm in a position where I'm doing this in this present lifetime, which kind of hints towards the fact that I've definitely done this before in other lifetimes, especially since I'm taking on a role of being a teacher to many of you listening. So I'm here teaching these principles that, once again, not everyone is teaching. So definitely take this into account. And take notes. If you're hearing me talk about anything that really opens up your mind and turns you on to maybe a side of educating yourself that you haven't experienced before, then take notes, take advantage of it. This is proper education here. So with that being said, now that we understand that, let's go into what does the clip-off really, from a practical lens, what does that mean inside of us? And then what does the Sephiroth, the tree of life, mean inside of us? And I'm going to use it from the Kabbalistic tree side of things so that we can understand this. All right. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the Kabbalistic tree of life. This is what's known as the Sephiroth. This, for those of you that also don't know, is a well-known structure of spiritual initiation when it comes to professional occultism. All right, so whenever you've heard of the Freemasons, the Golden Dawn, if you ever heard of Aleister Crowley, who is a part of the Golden Dawn, the O9A, Rosicrucians, the Knights Templars, it goes on and on and on. If you've ever heard of any of these groups of occult community or groups of occult orders, they're using this same structure to be able to understand and even to an extent trigger spiritual self-development. In other words, spiritual initiation. So this is what I've used as well to go through my spiritual initiatory journey in a triggered fashion. So what that means is that I became aware of this tree, and I started opening up some of these energy centers within my body, which also manifested externally in my life experience. And because I'm an occultist and because I'm open to the unknown a lot more than the average person, I was able to use this Kabbalistic structure to understand my spiritual self-development, or just my self-development in general. Now, if you're not an occultist and you're not as open to the unknown as maybe like myself, that does not mean that you're not still a part of this tree of life. Anyone that is in the field of self-development, spiritual self-development, or just once again, development in general of the self, they are a part of this tree. Remember what I said. Every single human being is a reflection of the universal tree of life. We all have an internal clip-off. We all have an internal Sephiroth. All right? So when we progress spiritually, or when we self-develop to re-remember who we are by integrating the true self, we are all taking place in this structure, whether you believe it or not. That's how cosmic this system actually is. This is like an ancient knowledge here. If you actually go into the real roots of understanding what this means as I hold it here, because some of you may just see something that looks like a DNA strand with a bunch of circles on it and lines that connect it. But if you actually study this and you get to a point where you start to work with it, you're going to actually see how significant and how sacred and how ancient this thing is here. And let's just leave it at, it's not in the shape of a DNA strand for no reason. It's showing us that it literally is embedded within our DNA as the human species. And we are not the only beings within planet Earth that use this structure in our local galaxy, all right, or even in our solar system. This is a universal tree for a lot of different, this exact one that we're looking at is a universal tree for a lot of other entities and beings that exist in our galaxy, all right? That's how sacred this is. So when you are a practicing occultist, or someone who's actually diving into occultism from a lens of structured growth, from a lens of serious spiritual progression, you are most likely going to come across this Kabbalistic tree. And then you're going to become aware of how important this actually is to be aware of, to gain the deeper knowing of what spiritual self-development is about. But you do not need to know this to reach high levels of spiritual self-development. You can go as far as you need to without the knowledge, because at the end of the day, knowledge is secondary to the internal foundation and the ability to process as you go through it. Okay, and there are many people that are actively initiating through this structure, and they have no idea what's happening. They just know that their life is changing. All right? So, as I was saying, this is that tree of life. I just wanted to make that clear for you. And this is the tree of death. All right, so this is the clip-off, and this is the Sephiroth. There are people that are working more so with this tree of life components, these aspects of their being, and then there are people that are working more so with this components and these aspects of their being. Remember, they both exist within all of us. So whichever one you're working on, you are going to gain value to some extent. But just like all things, especially what we know, you know, if you're someone that's into gardening or with plants, you cannot plant a fruitful tree if you do not take care of the roots. So how does that translate to this? We want to have a better awareness of the clip-off, and we definitely want to have a knowing on how to process and work with these energies before we start experiencing the intensity of the tree of life or the Sephiroth. So what I mean by that is that if we really want to experience the truthfulness of this tree of life and all the wonderful things that are associated with it, then we have to have a relationship to the clip-off within ourselves. We have to work on some of these repressed, scary energies and emotions that exist within ourselves to then even be able to access the fruits on this tree of life. So to work intentionally with the clip-off is going to really set the stage for you to live a life that is absolutely the most satisfying that you could imagine, because you'll be your true self. You'll be so much in tune with who you truly are, because you've watered and you've nurtured the roots of this tree, and then you naturally manifest the fruits. But even as I'm saying this, what I want you to very well know is that the roots of this tree are dangerous, which means you need the proper foundation. Underneath of all this, you need the proper foundation, which includes a safety net of how to actually go through this deeper form of integration of repressed negative emotions. So it becomes very dangerous to start dealing with this tree of death or clip-off if you don't have the proper foundation and education in play before you get into it. I'm someone, let me speak from personal experience. I went into this without the proper foundation, and I went through a lot of unnecessary pain and suffering because of that. Thankfully, I'm the type of person that when I get myself into a situation that is challenging and it almost seems like there's no way out, I always find a way out, because I have that level of willpower, I have that level of knowing, I have that level of trust, and I really allow myself to process what I'm experiencing through that journey, which is not fun to do because there's a lot of fear there, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of sadness, and there's a ton of other emotions as well. So this is something that I've experienced myself, and I have seen many people get into this form of initiation and literally shell themselves even more than before they went into it. I've seen people get into this and traumatize themselves so much without that underlying safety net, which is the foundation. So what they did is they relied on unhealthy ways of living to cope, and that ended up destroying them completely. So in other words, I've seen people become very strong drug addicts. I've seen people grab onto toxic relationships that they know are not healthy for them. I've seen people give up completely on what they know they're here to do and attach to what is more comfortable. Things that they, once again, know are not healthy for them or in alignment, but there's just a deep emotion that is repressed that's driving them to keep attaching to what's not healthy for them. So, as I said, without that foundation and that safety net, I've seen many people get into this work with good intentions and then lose themselves completely in the process. This is why it becomes so important to have someone that gives you the proper education and helps you develop your own personalized foundation, so that when you get into this work, you have a baseline to process the energies that you'll be encountering. In other words, you'll have an ability to know how to process your own negative repressed emotions through the journey. So if any of you are in this position now, or are wanting to get yourself into this type of work, because truly, as I said, if you want to experience the fruits on the tree of life, you have to work with the tree of death. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to fully initiate the tree of death and go as deep as you can, but you have to know how to work with those energies. You have to know how to feel them, how to process them, and how to understand what it is that they're teaching you. Okay? Otherwise, you're not going to experience the beauty on the tree of life. You're not going to experience the beauty of being in the present moment. You're not going to experience real love, happiness, joy, satisfaction, freedom, all of these wonderful things that we all want as humans. You won't be able to experience that if you're not, to some extent, watering these roots of your own system. So, once again, if you're wanting to do this and you want a professional to help educate you and guide you through this process, definitely look into booking a mentorship with me, okay? I am not saying this lightly. This can be one of the most transformative things you allow yourself to take advantage of, and it will cause significant changes in your life as we work together, because I'm going to give you significant tools that help you better understand your nervous system, that help you better understand how to pull some of these repressed emotions out of that nervous system, and then give you the ability to feel them and not run away from them so that they can transmute into positive energies. This is literally what alchemy is all about. So once again, if this is something you're interested in, definitely consider it. Booking a mentorship with me is in the second link below. We'll leave it there. All right. So with that being said, as we look at this, so the tree of life, I'm going to read off these different spheres, and we're going to go over what the tree of life really represents practically. Okay? So, Earth, Malkuth, represents kingdom. Yesod, ruled by the moon, represents foundation. Funny enough, I keep mentioning foundation. I keep mentioning that if you're wanting to make successful progress with this level of self-development, you have to have a foundation. Okay? I exist within this sphere a large portion of time helping people develop these foundations. Because if you do not have this sphere in place and you don't have the proper integration of education, then everything you do on top of that has a potential to crash down. Because if you do not have that foundation, the energies get very intense, especially when you go to cross the abyss. And we all go through this dark night of the soul. And it's usually at that point when people go for this crossing, their foundations completely crash because they didn't have one in the first place. Okay? It was like that building in Miami that happened, I think it was like 2 years ago. There was this building in Miami that just randomly, just fell. It's because the foundation was weak. And there was like over 30 people that died. Okay? Because of a weak foundation. That is a physical manifestation of an internal truth. All right? So that foundation becomes really important. And I can, once again, help you develop this. All right. So foundation, Yesod, ruled by the moon. Hod, splendor, Mercury. Netzach, victory, Venus. Tifereth, beauty, Earth. Sun. Gavura, severity, Mars. Chesed, mercy, Jupiter. Binah, understanding, Saturn. Chokmah, wisdom, Neptune. And then at the top, we have Kether, crown, and Pluto. So the tree of life is this. Kingdom, foundation, splendor, victory, beauty, severity, mercy, understanding, wisdom, crown. Oh, and we have that hidden sphere, which is Dath, which represents knowledge and is ruled by Uranus. But I want you to really soak this in and really take notes on this. Kingdom, foundation, splendor, victory, beauty, severity, mercy, understanding, wisdom, crown. Beautiful things. Okay, your own kingdom. Developing a healthy foundation. Experiencing splendor, achieving victory, experiencing beauty, understanding severity in the universe, receiving mercy from the universe, having understanding, having wisdom, and being crowned with awareness of the true self. All right? This is the tree of life. This is all different aspects of ourself that we truly want to have an ability to tap into and experience. So what does the tree of death represent? When we flip this, we're now reversing a lot of these energies that we just looked at. So in what areas do you feel like you do not have a kingdom? Or in other words, what is the opposite of a kingdom? Homelessness. Not having a home. So in what areas are you homeless? In what areas do you not feel like you have a home? See, this is already getting deep. I can feel the emotions coming out now. Foundation. When was your foundation ripped apart from you? See, a lot of you might be listening. Many of you may have had parents that separated and divorced. That is a great practical example of a very serious trauma that rips away a child's foundation. Because if you grow up with two parents that are together and you understand that sense of family and then the parents separate, oftentimes that completely takes the sense of security of the family, the foundation, and destroys it. So how many of you have experienced a sense of no foundation whatsoever? You're kind of just reacting to life all the time, going through the highs and the lows, not knowing how to find a balance or a stability. In what areas do you not have splendor? Okay. Where do you feel defeated? That's the victory. What's the opposite of that? Defeat. How often do you allow yourself to feel like you lost? Like you are not successful? Where in your life do you feel defeated? Because we all have areas of our life where we feel defeated. The only difference is how many of you are actually able to sit with that emotion. How many of you are able to be with feeling defeated? It's the difference. Beauty, what's the opposite of beauty? Disgust. How many of you are disgusted with yourself or with the world around you? And how often do you allow yourself to be disgusted? Severity. Destruction. That's honestly what that can translate into. Just pure destruction. Just a sense of just things being destroyed. All right, so what area of your life were things just ripped apart? No sense of like this is happening for a reason. No sense of like this is working out for me. This is actually best for me. Just a sense of like this was destroyed in my life and I'm broken now. All right. Mercy. In what areas of life do you feel like you're being taken advantage of and the person is completely manipulating you? Like there is no mercy. Like no one cares or loves you. Like everything is out to get you. Everything is working against you. In what areas of your life do you experience this? Because this is the sphere of mercy, except in the clip-off. All right, come down here. Understanding. How many of you do not understand why you are where you are right now? How many of you don't understand what's happening on our planet or with the mass collective? That is the clip-off of Bina. Wisdom. How many of you feel like you have 3 brain cells? And look, I know I'm playing with people's ego when I say that, but truthfully, how many of you feel like you don't have any wisdom to offer? How many of you feel stupid? Okay, how many of you feel like you're not allowing yourself to gain wisdom because of your poor decisions that keep happening over and over and over again, yet you don't know how to get out of those situations? Therefore, a sense of lack of that wisdom. How many of you are experiencing that? Crown. What is the opposite of crown? Being a peasant. Being someone that has no sense of self-worth. Someone that has no sense of authority. And when I say authority, I don't mean over others. I mean over yourself. You're just being pushed. You're being swayed by how everything is moving you in your environment. You have no ability to say, this is who I am, and this is the direction I'm going in. You have no crown. Your crown has been stripped from you, and you just feel like you're a victim in life with no emotions, because if you allow yourself to feel, it gets worse for you. So you try to numb everything out. Okay? That would be the clip-off of Kether. So it's all of these energies that I just went over that are in comparison to the other side with the tree of life. And when we start to work with these different energies and allow ourselves to feel them, but first identifying them, knowing what they are, and then starting to feel them, we're now starting the process of integrating that sense of not having a home. Because the reality is, and I'm using Malkuth as an example, the reverse of kingdom, the reality is that a lot of us truthfully have been through trauma that has given us a sense of not having a home. Some of us have been kicked out by our family members. Some of us have very, hard to deal with family members to the point where we don't feel like we have a home. So how many of you are feeling that? What does it feel like to not have a home? I will answer this for myself, because guess what? I came from that experience at one point in my life too. I felt like I had no home. What did that feel like for me? Sad. That made me sad. Sad to the point where I could cry. To not have a home made me sad. Why? Because that inner child in me knew that I deserved a home. But I didn't get that in my life experience. And that's okay. And I understand everything happens for a reason, but I'm also a human who has a nervous system, who has human emotions, and the truth is that made me sad. And if I can acknowledge that, and I can allow myself to be sad and feel that, rather than having to run away from it and separate, now I can actually process the clip-off of not having a home. And as I process that energy of not having a home, I feel that sadness. I allow myself to feel it. I cry if I need to cry. It is bringing that up to the surface so that emotion of sadness is no longer needing to be repressed, and it's transmuting into a neutral, and then I'm letting it go. And this is all happening unconsciously. This is not something I have to control. The only thing that I have to do is feel the emotion, which is the sadness. And then as it neutralizes, or as it comes out of the nervous system, it eventually gives me an ability to have a sense of home, a sense of having my own kingdom. And the way that this could look is that as I'm really doing this deep processing, I'm getting to a position of better awareness and understanding, and knowing that if I didn't get that home as a child that I deserved, I can create this for myself from a whole space of love. I don't have to create it to prove my parents wrong, to say, you didn't give me a home, so I'm going to give myself one. I can create it saying, I love myself, and I know what I went through in the past was sad. And as I feel that sadness, I know that I'm loving myself, because it is sad to go through something like that. And as I go through that, I'm nurturing my inner child. I'm nurturing that inner true self inside of my being that was sad that I didn't have a home. And as I do that nurturing, that's the self-love. And then I can say, you know what? I'm going to give myself a home because I deserve it. And it's what I've always wanted. And I can create a home. I can create my own kingdom. And this would be the example of taking what was a clipothic energy of not having a home, doing the real emotional integration and processing, and then turning that into a home, turning that into a kingdom. Now, when we're working with this tree, this universal tree within ourselves, this is what we're doing with every single one of these spheres, and it's also interconnected with these archetypes. I'm not even going to touch on the archetypes in this video because we're already going long enough, but the archetypes add a whole nother layer to this initiatory process or this self-development process, because there is a psychological understanding of what they represent, and there is an emotional experience behind every one of these archetypes as well. All right? So I broke this down to help you understand that if we want to get to the real Garden of Eden and actually experience it in the physical world around us, because as within, as without, we have to understand how to work with and process these qlipothic shells within ourselves. We have to understand how to recollect the lost fragments of our soul from when we had to separate to survive. And as I really wanted you to understand as well, this is not something most likely you are able to do on your own. You are going to need, whether it's with me, a professional that can help you develop this, or on your own. Good luck if you do it on your own. It's not going to be easy, but look, I encourage you, if that's what you think you can do it. I did it. It wasn't easy. And I didn't just do it on my own. There was natural guides that came across my path. But I also went through a lot of pain and suffering that was unnecessary had I just sought help through this process. If you don't have that proper foundation with that safety net underneath to know what to do when things get overwhelming, to know what practices you can rely on to process, to feel, if you don't know how to understand your nervous system enough to even feel, these are the spaces that we need to start. We don't even want to go deep into this yet. We want to start building that foundation first before we start getting deeper into these roots. Otherwise, there can be a lot of unnecessary trauma that triggers in your life that you're not even ready to deal with, okay? And then there's a whole education to all of this as well that I educate my clients with. So once again, if you're resonating with this and you want to experience a real life tree of life reality where you can have the sweetest of nature itself, the sweetest of life itself, you definitely want to rewatch this video, take notes on some of the things that I was talking about, and ask yourself, is this something you're actually resonating with? Don't just take what I'm telling you for face value. Don't just believe it because I'm saying it. Ask yourself, do you actually resonate with what I'm talking about? Because if you don't resonate, then maybe it's not for you. But if you do resonate, maybe there's something there that is very deep inside of you that wants to come out or come back to the forefront. And that might be the true self. All right? So once again, second link below is where you can book that mentorship with me if you want me as a guide. I would recommend getting the 3-month mentorship, by the way, as well. And the 3-month mentorship is discounted from the 6-week mentorship. But whichever one you feel led to, take advantage of it. Now, just on that note, on the actual Tree of Life, Garden of Eden concept note, in my actual life, as I've been going deep with this process, once again, I speak from personal experience. None of this is because I thought about it and it was just a thought that just randomly came to me because I read it in a book or I studied it from someone else and whatever. These are things that are viscerally inside of me from real life experience that I talk about. So with this subject, this was something I've actually experienced in my personal life with going through the clip-off and nurturing those roots of my tree of life, and then experiencing the tree of life and actually entering the Garden of Eden. So the way that this actually manifested for me is, for those of you that know, I initiated into the clip-off back in 2019. That took me around 2 years to go through that structure of the clip-offic tree for the most part. But the integrations don't stop, okay? Just because you go through the structure doesn't mean when it's finished, you're done forever. It doesn't. The integration always takes place. The clip-off always exists. The roots are always there. You just know how to work with them much more effectively, all right? So I've been doing this work for a while now, and I've been going very deep with it. And I've gotten to a position where I'm experiencing a lot of these tree of life energies. Okay, a lot of these kingdom energy. I've got a king bed right behind me. I'm in my kingdom. This is like my own condo that I just purchased. So this is literally my kingdom. So that's a manifestation there. Foundation, as I'm communicating quite often, I'm talking about the necessity for having a foundation. I've had to create it inside of myself, and now I can offer it to others. That's the manifestation of Yesod. Splendor, I experienced that. Victory, I live a pretty victorious life. I mean, that's how I feel about it. I don't feel like I'm a failure. I don't feel like I'm making mistakes every day and that things aren't working out. I feel like I've made a lot of progress and I continue to. So I would consider that a feeling of victory. And on and on and on. And ultimately, I live in this complex and it's a gated community. And there's a gatekeeper here, like an actual gatekeeper, who's in charge of like lifting the gate for visitors. And before I actually bought my condo here, I was a visitor. So I would go back and forth from this gate, and I was being called into this community. And I didn't know why 100%, but it really reminded me of the Garden of Eden. Because when you enter into this community, everything literally looks perfect. Like it's just, they do so much work here that the grass is super green, all of the trees are trimmed. It's just so almost paradise. And there's nature, there's birds everywhere, there's alligators, there's frogs, there's lizards, there's snakes, there's all kinds of stuff. And that's what I did know, and that felt right for me. And I was wondering though, like, I'm getting called here, and I don't fully understand why here, out of all places. And then I was talking to the person that works at the front gate as I was entering in, and we ended up connecting pretty closely. He was really cool. He was a really good guy. And as I was driving through the gate, I just wanted to ask him, I said, "What's your name, man? Like, you're a cool guy. What's your name?" And he looked at me and he said, "My name's Eden." And in that moment, it hit. And I realized this is the Garden of Eden. This is my Eden that I manifested in my life experience. From all the hell and the clip-off that I had to go through to be my true self again, to find that, to recollect from all those lost fragments that I separated a long time ago in my past. From all that work that I did, I realized in that moment, I made it to the tree of life. I made it to the Garden of Eden. I'm in paradise now. And that hit me so hard. And then when I bought this condo, the lady that I bought the condo from, she named it specifically. And I didn't know this, but she told me that she named this condo specifically Treetops. And when she said that, it hit me and it made me think of the top of the tree, or the Sephiroth, the top. And she named it that because when you go out to the balcony, you can literally see the tops of the trees, the palm trees. And I just noticed these little subtle symbols and these signs, and that really stood out to me. And it made me realize, like this work, as we work with this internal tree of life within us, we have to water those roots, and we have to work with that clip-off to get to the top of the tree, to get to that paradise, to get to those positive life experiences. And it really is a beautiful thing. And that is what inspired me to make this video that I'm making right now. So I said enough. Ladies and gentlemen, if this is something that you enjoyed, hit the thumbs up button. All right, make sure you definitely take advantage of that. Also, come down here in that comment section and let me know if you resonated with what it was that I was talking about in this video. Let me know if you're following what it is that I'm saying, because I know that these can be sort of out of the norm concepts and philosophies, because I'm tying in the occult with understanding trauma in the nervous system, which I think is just I think they connect so well together. But I know it's also new. I don't know anyone else that's in the occult field that really works with and fully understands the nervous system and understanding the importance of regulating the nervous system and processing emotions. So if you're following what I'm saying, let me know in the comment section below. Let me know how it's affecting you or how it's influencing you. Let me know if you want to hear more content that is like this, because I'm definitely going to be making more content like this, but I want to hear what your feedback is as well. Now, come down here and hit the subscribe button. By subscribing, you're going to further link into my content. There is a psychic component that goes behind that, like a real energetic component. So if you want more value from what it is that I'm teaching here right now, once again, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and then you'll get access. All right. Now, let's see, where do I want to take you now? Go ahead and drop down in the YouTube description and check out the private Facebook community. This is going to be an amazing group of people. There's almost 1,000 people in it right now. It's a private Facebook group, by the way. And you're going to find, as I said, an amazing group of people, like tons of open-minded people, basically no judgment. You know, if there is judgment, people get removed. It's just a space where you can like open up and share things that you've been through or you've experienced, and potentially connect with others who can help you better understand what you went through or just resonate with you. I mean, there's tons of amazing bonds that have actually been formed from other members that are in that group. Lots of wonderful friendships. So if that's something that you want to take advantage of, people are posting within this group on a daily basis. You'll find that link for the private Facebook community in that drop-down description. Just scroll down, you won't miss it, and you can request to join, and then one of my moderators will add you in. All right, now I'm going to take your awareness to literally the most important link within the entire YouTube description itself. This is the Patreon. On the Patreon, I have an entire vault of occult content that is not on my YouTube channel. More advanced, more personal than what you're getting here. Okay, real practices that you can get your hands and feet wet with to start seeing some significant changes taking place in your life. And tons of education. Okay, the Patreon has so much education on areas of life that you probably never considered before. All right, especially from a really spiritual occult lens. And the new stuff that I'm starting to upload to the Patreon is more in alignment with learning how to regulate the nervous system, with actually giving you practices that help you through this process. This is like what I'm most passionate about in this present moment. I think this is some of the deepest work to do. And once again, I'm uploading that type of content to the Patreon. So if you want to take advantage of this, definitely check out the Patreon. When you get to tier number 3 of the Patreon, you're gaining access to the Universe.B Vampire service. This is a service that is performed on the 29th of every single month that has one. And this service is one of the most significant and powerful services that someone could take advantage of for literally $50 a month, which is absolutely nothing. So what this service is designed to do is completely change the spin on your energy field. So usually people's energy fields have a clockwise spin to it. This service is designed to change it to be counterclockwise. And what that does is that allows the person to start loving themselves more. It starts drawing the awareness from pushing out more to coming in more, which sets the stage of being able to feel and process the emotions within the nervous system so that you can start integrating them and becoming more of your true self. All right. What is the concept of a vampire? A being that is not afraid of the dark, rather a being that thrives in the darkness. So vampires, as we're working with these dark energies within ourselves, our own clip-off, we're integrating them and processing them, naturally transmuting them into power and potential. So literally, it's the darkness that truly becomes our best friend and becomes our power and evolutionary potential. And this is literally why vampires are so successful on our planet today, because we're not running from our unconscious. We're moving into it and learning how to live in it. So this service is designed to change the energy field to start perceiving dark energy and chaos from that lens of power and potential, and help you have that ability to start surfacing some of these repressed emotions inside of yourself to process them. Okay, it really is a deep feminine energy that is a part of this service. So this is the most popular tier on the Patreon itself. That speaks for itself. If this is something that you want to take advantage of, you have to become a tier number 3 or 4 member to get access to the vampire service. Then that also includes your name on a vampire sigil that I've received myself back during my occult initiations. It's a specific symbol that was gifted to me that has some significant correspondence to it to the feminine nature of our universe itself. And the symbol is actually the symbol that is on my public YouTube channel. It's my profile picture. So I have the original symbol on a piece of paper, and for everyone that is a participant of the vampire service, I keep their names on that symbol, and it energetically links those souls and those individuals to that dark feminine energy that is like the totality of our universe itself, and it allows them to better integrate the traumas, the negative energies that come in on a daily basis to turn them into that gold that it should be. All right. So with that being said, once again, if you want to take advantage of it, you know where to go. Tier number 4 is the new top tier of the Patreon. This gives you access to the vampire service and everything from the previous tiers, but you also get a psychic prediction on a monthly basis, and you have access to message me whenever you want with any questions that you might have, and I can literally respond to you whenever I have the free time, and I will respond to you in voice message. So if you want to take advantage of that, check it out. All of this is in the Patreon, first link in that YouTube description. All right. Now, this is the next most important link to take your awareness to. This is the second link below. This is where you can either book a one-on-one call with me, or you can book your mentorships with me. I discussed the mentorships several times throughout this YouTube video. I'll give you a brief runaround. The mentorships are really the most passionate thing that I'm taking advantage of right now. I love doing these mentorships. This is a new service that I've recently offered, and I've already done over a handful of them. I've done over 10 mentorships, and every single one is such an intimate experience. It's such an intimate process where I get to understand my client and understand where they are in their journey and help them navigate what's going on, and also educate them on what they need to know to start getting into the deeper layers of their spiritual development. And it's been extremely valuable. Several of the mentorships are people that are also reoccurring their mentorships. So that means they get a mentorship and then they get another mentorship because they understand the value. So this is the most important place to start. Honestly speaking, if you're someone getting yourself into deeper levels of spiritual self-development, which connects to Kabbala initiation. If you're getting into Kabbala initiation, you should be getting a mentorship with me. If not, by all means, go ahead, do your thing, but you always know where to find me. All right, that is all in that second link below. We'll leave it there. Now, in that same second link below, you have an option to book a tarot card reading with me. This is a very unique tarot card reading. You've never received it before, trust me, very unique. In this tarot card reading, I can literally pinpoint where you are on the Kabbalistic tree and tell you what you're feeling, experiencing, and going through in the present moment, and then what to expect as you move into the near and the long-term future based on your positioning on that Kabbalistic tree itself, and also just based on what the cards are showing me. All right. And I break it down in a very practical way so you can really understand what's taking place. And I don't sugarcoat. So I give it to you exactly how the cards show it to me. So if that's something you want to take advantage of, I've done well over 2,000 readings at this point. I do a reading almost every single day, get tons of valuable feedback. Second link below is where you can book that. All right. Now, as we move into that third link below, this is where you can become a YouTube member. And as you become a YouTube member, you're getting access to a multitude of different benefits. Most importantly, you're getting access to the Psychic Warfare emoji program. This is an emoji program that I've designed personally myself that you can use in a certain configuration. Then you link in the name of a target of your choice, you hit enter, and it actually causes psychic effects to that target of your choice. This is the most simple form of utilizing psychic warfare through the internet platform, and it's also one of the most helpful, healthy ways to express aggression. So if this is something that you resonate with, something that you want to take advantage of, you can do so. You click that third link below, you join at the top, and then you have access. There are well over 2,000 posts where people have already used it, and there are people in this moment taking advantage of it. So if you want to take advantage of it, you know what to do. We'll leave it there. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate all of you very, very, very much. And I hope you all have an amazing rest of the day or night, wherever you are. And I will see you in that next video. Peace.